Hi everyone, welcome back to another week on the Brush by Brandy YouTube channel. My name is Brandy and this week we're going to do something kind of fun and we're working on another jewelry box. So this actually came in an order. It's a mom and two daughters and each of them submitted separate inspiration that kind of spoke of their personalities. And so this is the second one in this series of jewelry boxes that I'm working on. It came out really cute. We're going to be doing some transfers. There's a little bit of blending in there. We're going to be doing some transfers on wood stain. And the end result is something that's really personal. I love doing these as gifts. I try to fit them in where I can. Honestly, a jewelry box can usually take me as long, if not longer, than a full-size furniture piece sometimes because they're so intricate. But people really enjoy them, and I think these are treasures that they can hold on to. So let's put this one together, see my process. Stick around. Let's get started. I had actually purchased a lot of jewelry boxes in bulk from a collector, and so this was one from my inventory, and these were the colors that the customer gave me for inspiration. The other inspiration she gave me was Wildflower, so we're going to run with that. I'm going to go ahead and take my box apart. The first thing I do always with my jewelry boxes is start off by removing all the hardware and make sure that I isolate it into a bin. This tiny stuff is really easy to lose, so you want to make sure you keep track of it. I actually prefer when the hardware screws in with tiny screws because it's much easier. Sometimes they can be glued in and they're not always easy to remove. With all my hardware removed, the top was already loose, so I went ahead and sanded it down to raw wood and added a coat of stain. And then I'm going to apply the Poppy Garden Transfer from Redesign with Prima. This is going to go perfectly with our wildflower theme. So I have a little tip when applying transfers over raw wood. I go ahead and apply my transfer. Make sure your stain is nice and dry. I let my stain dry for at least 72 hours before putting my transfers on. And then after the transfer is on, I go ahead and I wipe on a really thin coat of stain over the transfer itself. This is going to make that halo around the edges nearly invisible. When you wipe away that coat of stain that you put over the transfer, you always want to make sure you wipe it off the top of the face of your transfer so that it doesn't obscure them at all. With my top done, I'm going to go ahead and add some paint to the body. We're going with a wildflower theme, and I wanted to make this look like a field of flowers. So I started with a really basic base, some green on the bottom, and a little bit of blue on the top. But let's add some more detail with it. For this look, I'm using Wise Owl paint. I'm going to use a full list of colors. I'll go ahead and name them all in the description for this post because there's quite a bit of colors here. But I'm going to use multiple colors of green on the bottom. This is going to look like natural grasses, and then I'm going to mix in some shades of blue and white on the top, so this looks like my cloudy sky. I'm using a combination of some of the smaller brushes from Klingon and some synthetic bristle artist brushes. Layering the colors and then the randomness of the brush strokes is what really makes this look like a natural sky. So what I'm going to do next is actually going to look very different from the final version of the box, but I wanted to leave this in so that you guys saw what I did. We always tend to be our own worst enemies, right? So I actually hand painted all the flower work on this box. And at the end, I'm sure a million people would have told me that they looked great, but I just didn't care for how it looked. So here I'm going to hand paint in my grasses. I'm using just a variety of shades of greens, some with more yellow in them, some that are more of an army green, and some fresh greens. I'm just using a small artist brush and pulling it upward. These upward brush strokes are going to give me the very natural look of a free-flowing grass. Here's where I landed with all of my grass painted in. Next, I'm going to start on some flowers. So I find with looks like this that layering your paint colors is actually what gives you the really natural effect. And so here I'm working on some of the layering. I started out with just a base of my paint for some of the outlines of my flowers, and then I'm going to detail them using some watercolor brush pens. These are from Arteza. I actually spent a lot of time on these flowers, which makes it even more sad that at the end I was too frustrated with them and I'm going to end up painting over them. It's not that I don't think this look is really cute. I actually really like the hand-painted flowers. I just thought that the transfers gave it a much more refined look, so I'm going to end up replacing these with some transfers. I chose a random mix of paint colors, and I'm using synthetic bristle artist brushes to paint in the outline of my flowers that I then filled in with the watercolor brushes. But when I decided to go ahead and change this, I went all the way back and repainted my sky. So here I am restarting again, and now I'm going to apply this transfer from Redesign with Prima. This is a Wildflower transfer from their Maisie and Willow line, and it's very petite sizes, which made it perfect for the front of this jewelry box. I'm going to apply a random mix of these wildflowers all the way around the three sides of my jewelry box. I like the detail and the intricacy of the transfer flowers, and I thought the pops of color against my green and blue background looked perfect. This was a very tiny transfer application, so it took a lot of time to get this into the carvings of these little tiny doors. I'm going to work my way slowly around the door front. I started out by applying it to the door center first, and then I made some cuts into my transfer, and then I'm going to apply it into the crevices of the door. Each one of these took an incredible amount of time. That on top of the fact that I had already painted hand-painted flowers, this box took me a long time. But in the end, I'm really, really happy with the look, and that's all that matters. When I'm doing jewelry box looks, I also try to tie in colors that tie in with the velvet inside the box. I usually don't replace the velvet inside my jewelry boxes. That is a big job in itself, so I just choose jewelry boxes that have velvet that's already in good condition. If it's in good condition, I can just vacuum it really well, brush it really well with a nice nylon bristle brush to get it clean, and they look great. I added a clear coat and a little bit of gold gilding wax to some edges and to my hardware, and this one is done. Here are my final pics. Check the description for this post for links and a list of everything I used on this beautiful jewelry box. As always, you can find more Brush by Brandy on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube, and on my website at brushbybrandy.com. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll click that subscribe button.